My name is Petra Haffter, and I am a director, writer, and producer of feature films and documentary. The way I work is maybe a little bit unusual. I like to create my projects by myself, or I like to find the topics or the screenplays I'm working from. And usually what I'm doing is I prepare this to a certain level of presentation. And once this level is reached, I try to find partners depending on what I'm working on. If it is, for example, a documentary series, I would reach out to a broadcaster or a production company. If it is like at the moment the feature film, then I try to reach out for cast and for production companies and try to get pitch meetings. I would say my journey was not the usual one because I don't come from a family of filmmakers. In fact, I came pretty much from a family where no one really knew that films were made by ordinary people. So maybe up to 8 or 9 years, I had thought films are just there and we watch them to be entertained. And my favorites when I was a child was pretty much these monumental films about ancient Rome or Egypt or Greece, and with hundreds or thousands of extras. That was really what I was big into. And the idea that someone like me could start as a filmmaker or get a career in filmmaking didn't occur to me. That came much, much, much later. And so from that point of view, I also didn't go to a film school. I grew up as a child of a fisherman and behind a dike on a cold ocean. And there was no idea of film schools or something like that. Once I had left this environment and I knew I wanted to go into a more creative work, I started out with radio and with photography. So it was kind of a total different entrance. Because I was working in radio, I had learned to tell stories, to research, to make interviews. And once the moment was there that I was successful with one series in radio, I thought, okay, then it's now only a little step also to make a documentary film. Same with the photography. I mean, I like to take photos, but I had the strong feeling I have to learn something. So what I tried to do is I was doing, in this years, it was not digital photography. It was photography that had two parts. You took the pictures and then you had to go to the darkroom to develop these pictures and film and pictures. And so I was kind of an assistant during my school years for photographers who liked to take pictures but didn't like to work in the darkroom. And so I learned quite a bit in that field as well. It's a different start. And then when I came into an age where I was deciding to study something, it was also not necessarily directly film what I wanted to study. First of all, I wanted to be a member of the diplomatic corps. And that didn't work out very well because they didn't want to have women at that time. You could only be in the vice president position or in the deputy consul position. And so I turned around and said, that's not what I want. I don't want to have the same education as my male friends. And so I started to study politics and journalism and drama. That's where my career started. First of all, I did, during my studies at a certain point, kind of guest study positions at film schools, which is, I think, nowadays much more to get. But in my time, when I started as a student, it was possible to do so. That was in Berlin. I tried to create a network, people I wanted to work with, and I felt which were a little bit in the same situation as I was. I call it always the genius of the youth. I was really looking at my myself and what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to be a director for a documentary film at that moment, for one, just to step in. And I knew that it is very dangerous when you go out and pitch projects and people then suddenly steal your idea. What I was doing is I picked a topic where I knew I'm the only one who can make this particular film. And I surrounded myself with people that had already experience in the process of filmmaking. So I had an experienced DP, and I knew also who should edit the film. I came to the table and had surrounded myself with material I knew, with a lot of researched material. It was a film about women that were working in nightclubs and bars as strip girls, pole dancers. And I knew these women because I had also worked quite a bit in this business and knew a lot of people there, and I knew how this would go. And if you have the access to a certain topic and you can present it, and I had collected a lot of interviews with these co-workers or the women I had known along the way, and so I came with a whole package of material and photos. I came with people that had already worked on documentary films, and I pitched it. And I was also lucky that there was a combination, because this company I worked for, this broadcaster where I was doing the successful radio show before, they had also a department of television. So my name was already not in film, but they knew that I had made a successful radio show before. In documentary filmmaking, I think the biggest challenge is that you understand the people you are working with. These people have a certain experience or expertise you want to bring out and show the world, but they have a different approach to what had happened in their life or what they are doing currently. And you have to find within all this material, this ongoing material, a story that makes sense to be told. And often it is not so easy to make a documentary film within a certain time frame. Sometimes you have to collect material already before or later after. It is just a short moment you condense in your documentary film, but it has roots and it has also like a tail that goes out to a future, and you have to figure out which is the interesting part of the biggest change in the life of this person. A profound research and knowing how to research, going on location, going to talk with people, get it firsthand, look at material that no one has access to. That can be photography, that can be home videos, that can be little articles in magazines, local magazines or newspapers. Not everything we are looking for is in the internet. The internet is pretty only what people fed into the internet, and sometimes when you want to do an original story, especially in documentary, I think you have to go back to the roots and really go in there, dive in there. The most important thing to have when you want to go into the field of documentary filmmaking is you have to be curious and you have to be open for everything else. Because if you have this attitude that you know already everything, when you ask people and you ask them, then you add like, I know this, and this, and this, you immediately get a very reduced answer, because people don't want to offend you then when they have a different approach, and you will not get really what they are thinking about because they are in front of your camera and they want just to please you. That is deadly for a documentary film. So you have to be really open-minded, and you have to know what you want. I am a person that always have also a scripted question. That doesn't mean that I read them to the people, but that means that before I go for an interview or something, that I be prepared. And once I have written it down with my hand, then I will remember the questions. That has also two sides, because one side you want to be prepared, but on the other side, you always have to be open-minded, because there could be an answer or something coming in that you didn't even were aware of, that even with a good research, you had no clue that the person would answer that. If that happens, it is a very good, a very valuable and very refreshing moment, and you cannot miss that. And another thing, what's always very important with documentary film is you have to be able to ask people in a way that they tell you stories, anecdotes, what they remember, challenge they were in. So you have to kind of bring them into a situation that they revisit what had happened, because just analyzing what had happened is boring and no one is interesting. First of all, I think learn to research. Make yourself aware where the stories are, and the stories can be everywhere. A picture can spark a story, what you see somewhere. A newspaper article can be a diary, it can be a political event. There are so many sources and resources. Try to figure out how you get more access to the story and how you get a more researched material. I think this is the first thing to prove if the story is worth to be told, because if you have no material, then there is also no story. Step number 2 for making documentary films is, especially nowadays, it's not enough that you have archive material and interviews. You have to visualize your film. First of all, sure, you have to keep your eyes open what's happening now, because what we want in filmmaking is we want to witness what's happening right now. If you want, or if you have to, because you don't have the material to recreate something, you have to think about what do you want stylistically. Do you want to go and reenact with actors, with dialogues and all that? Or do you want just to do recreation? Errol Morris, the documentary filmmaker, is a master of recreation, where you just work with sound bites, with objects, with locations, but still kind of visualize what the story is, because the interview, the talking heads alone don't make a documentary film. Definitely. This whole idea of shadowing someone is something I would really vigorously support. Also, I have, during my life, given very often former students or young people I had known or met along the way the chance to work with me, like an assistant doing basically the pre-production and production, that they learn the process with all the ups and downs, so that I had asked them to at least dedicate a time of, let's say, 3 months, 5 months to this project, because just to jump in while you are shooting is not helping very much. But to learn how you get access and how you start building a story and all this can be super helpful. I mean, I must really say, and I'm proud of that a lot of people that have worked with me are now successful documentary filmmakers themselves, or got into the industry, and I think I could somehow open a door for them. And some, that's the opposite, then realize that is not for me. Oh my God, this is so much work, I don't want to do it. That's fine too. Then you come to the point and say, okay, not for me, and you find something else. What you also can do as a young filmmaker, when you think you want to embark on documentary films, is shoot your material and then try to figure out to make a first rough cut or an assembly of material. It might not be the entire film, but it might be a part of the film, and try to find someone who you can discuss it with, just get some guidance how to finish it. I mean, sometimes it can be that some of your material is very valuable. I mean, I guided once a filmmaker who was, I think originally she came from real estate, but she wanted to become a filmmaker, and she made a really crazy journey through the Sudan and made a very political film, but it was also her journey. This film was kind of going nowhere because it was just an assembly of a lot of material, but strong material that besides her no one else would have. And she showed me this material, and I loved the material, but I told her she has to kind of make a total different story out of it. She said, yeah, but I cannot go again and shoot there because now I'm on the blacklist there. I can never enter the Sudan again. So I told her, no, that's not what I mean. The material that you have collected there, it's fine. But what you need is you have to have like bookends. It's your story. and you have to create something, the beginning of the film and an end for this film, and we have to know why you wanted to make the film, and then these things will fall into places. And this film became a very good tool for groups of Sudan, and a political tool from Eritrea, and it was a very successful story. And now she has just made a new film. It helps if you start something out, just revisit it with someone who has the experience to work with material like this, because you get a different point of view.